Hello and welcome to Nighttime Tales. My name is Grace Sekirapa and today we're reading the book Mr. Moutang's Thirds. This book was written by Lindiwe, Tshabalala, and it was illustrated by Marlene Visser. It is break time at Siafunda Primary School. Nomsa, Zabu and Zodwa have just sat down in the shade to enjoy their lunch. Today, Nomsa and Zodwa brought food from home, but Jabu is eating a quota from Mr. Mkhinze's shop. This cheese is creamy. Mr. Mkhinze's quota are the best, exclaims Jabu, licking his fingers. Tebogo is sitting nearby and overhears Jabu. He can't believe his ears. Tebogo asks, "Did you just say there's cheese on Mkhinze's quarters? Did you say Mkhinze's quarters are the best? Are you joking?" Huh? You don't know Mr. Mkhinze's? He's changed his ways, and this quarter speaks for itself, says Jabu, pointing at his quarter. The quarter is stuffed with chips, polony, and acha, and covered in creamy melting cheese. Tebogo is impressed, and just then, Selo arrives with his lunch and Tebogo says to his friend, "Hey Selo, look at this quarter." Jabu notices Selo's face and asks, "Why are you so serious?" Selo puts his quota on the bench next to Jabu's quota. "I got my quota from Mr. Moutang. The quotas are equal in size, but mine has less filling." "Yes," says Nomsa. "That's exactly why so many kids are buying from Mr. Mkhinze's shop now." "So, Mr. Mkhinze is a changed man? He used to slice one loaf of bread into 5 parts to make his quarters," says Tebogo. "Huh?" replies Nomsa. "That's not a quarter at all." "Why was it not a quarter?" asks Selo. "Ha, Selo?" laughs Nomsa. "Don't you remember what our teacher taught us about fractions? Cutting one loaf of bread into 5 equal pieces does not give us quarters, it gives us feets." Selo thinks. Then he says, "I remember. Each part of a whole divided into 5 equal parts is 1/5 of the whole. Each part of a whole divided into 4 equal pieces is quarter of the whole." Zodwa interrupts. "But hey guys, what is going on with Mr. Moutang's quarters? They are a quarter of a loaf, but they contain less than Mr. Mkhinze's quarters." Jabu frowns and says to the group, "If Mr. Moutang is having problems and goes out of business, then Mkhinze will have no competition. What if Mkhinze gets greedy and goes back to his bad old ways?" A few days later, Mr. Moutang is getting ready to sell lunch at break time, and he is worried. Lately, fewer and fewer learners are buying from him, and Mr. Moutang asks himself, "Why are they all flocking to Mkhinze? I thought we were selling the same quota at the same price." Jabu, on his way from Mr. Mkhinze's shop, passes by Mr. Moutang's shop. He calls the boy over. "Hey Jabu, how are you?" Mr. Moutang's eyes are not on Jabu but on the quota Jabu is carrying. He smiles when he realizes that the quota has got more chips, more cheese, more polony, and more acha than his quotas. The next time Nomsa and Zodwa are buying quotas, Mkhinze gives him a gift. He says, "Wait a minute, I've got a surprise for you. And soon, I'll be selling food at my shop. So here are some sweet juicy apples to try for free, and please share with your friends." The girls are delighted. "Thank you, Mr. Mkhinze," they say at the same time. They decide to share the apples with Jabu, Tebogo, and Selo and go find them in the yard. Zodwa tells the boys, "Mr. Mkhinze gave us these apples to share. He wants to sell them at his shop." So Nomsa puts the apples on the bench so that they can all count them. "Well," says Tebogo, "we can each have an equal number of apples, but there's one apple left over. Let's cut that remaining apple into 3 equal parts," suggests Jabu. "What are 3 equal parts called?" mutters Nomsa to herself. "Thirds." "Cut the apple into thirds," says Selo proudly. "No, let's give that leftover apple to our maths teacher," says Zodwa. The friends agree, and it's a good suggestion to give the apple to Mrs. Nkosi after the break. The next week, Jabu and Nomsa are waiting for Zodwa at break. "Look! Moutang is back in business," she says. Zodwa puts her quota on the bench and the three of them compare the quotas. "Wow," says Jabu, "that quota is bigger than a quarter. And look at all those chips." "I bet this costs a lot extra?" asks Nomsa suspiciously. After the break, as they head back to class, Zodwa takes a friend to read the notice board outside Mr. Moutang's shop. Jabu and Nomsa can't believe their eyes when they read the sign. "Get your supersized quarter third. Only 3 rand more. A third of a loaf with extra chips and extra sauce with polony or cheese." And that is the end of our beautiful story. So what we learned today is we've learned about fractions, but also most importantly, we've learned about honesty. Thank you so much for staying with us and for watching today's show. See you next time, and until then, good night and bye-bye.